Well, thank you guys very much for being here. I appreciate your support. Tonight, we're going to have a quick look at some keys for successful group problem solving and decision making. This is for my small group communication class at Lewis Clark State College. So your being here is helping me succeed. So as I see it, everybody here already knows the heart and soul of group problem solving. And that is that as we come together, we rise together. So thank you very much. And without further ado, let's jump right in. So group problem solving, working in groups, it is changing the marketplace in that it is so powerful. It has really an exponential potential for what can be done in groups as opposed to individuals. When we bring unique perspectives together, we can see a problem from many different sides. And so our ideas are much more abundant. The solutions are much more creative, and our feedback with one another can really help us take extra leaps and bounds. But of course, when we're working in groups, there's a difference between problem solving and decision making. And so it's helpful to know that. Peter Drucker is a management expert who is quoted as saying, a decision is a judgment. It is a choice between alternatives, whereas problem solving is a process. And so tonight, in the next roughly 5 minutes, we're going to go over 5 essentials for working as a group, 5 stages of group problem solving, and 5 strategies for successful group problem solving. So hold on to your hats. Here we go. So first off, the 5 essentials for working as a group. We need a clear goal. A clear goal helps us know what we're trying to achieve, the problem we're trying to solve, and the people who should be at the table. And knowing exactly what we're trying to do will help us understand who is best suited to address that problem. Quality content refers to the research we've done, the information we have on hand. The kind of solutions we come up with is dependent upon the quality of content that we have going into it. A structured procedure is a method that gets us through the process of solving a problem. And it's something that should be understood and agreed upon before the process starts. That way people know what to expect when they're going in and what's expected of them, which leads to a commitment to deliberation, that commitment to participate, to hear and receive and give feedback. Of course, you can have all of this in place, but if we don't develop a collaborative communication environment or climate, then all of that can really unravel. This collaborative communication climate is the openness to accept each other's personalities, problem-solving strategies, and just the different perspectives that we bring to the table. We want to keep that open and welcome so that people are contributing. Without that, the whole thing kind of falls apart. So there's these 5 stages of group problem solving. And in his article for the Harvard Business Review, Al Pitampalli, he gives us these 5 stages that you can see on the screen. But he talks about them like the gears in a manual transmission car. And he says that we use these 5 stages individually and in a group, but we don't go through them in a straight process. We actually go back and forth, and we intuitively transition gears, shift between gears or stages. We do it intuitively on our own. So when we get into a group and everybody's intuitively switching gears independently, all of a sudden we're on different stages. We've got one person trying to define the problem, and somebody else is over here trying to implement a solution they think is going to work. Next thing you know, we're arguing about a solution we haven't even evaluated yet. And he says, the way through this is to have a set method, to have a structure that puts us all on the same stage at the same time, and so that we know what we're doing and how we're doing it to get through. So that's what we want to look at. So here's some 5 strategies for successful group problem solving. It's going to start with the cornerstone, which is brainstorming. So we're always going to start when we get together and we're starting to chew on the problem. We're going to come back to it every time we have to refine a decision. So it's good to get comfortable with it. The first thing you want to do is sharpen your focus. Brainstorming will help you define that problem better. Put your ideas up so everybody can see it and number them so we know what our flow is, where we're going. And that way we can build and jump from those ideas, combine them and get creative. You really want to encourage the input as well so that we're not judging those decisions right away. You want to get them all up there and on the board before you start to analyze them, or evaluate them. Once you're good and comfortable with the brainstorming, it's going to be used in the other strategies as well. So this nominal group technique, this is a really good one for remote teams that are not face-to-face, or teams with a high power dynamic, because it maximizes participation while minimizing conflict. And it does that by having every individual do their own brainstorming and submit their own ideas, and then without initial feedback. And then those ideas are discussed to some level. Maybe that's clarification, maybe it's full-on back and forth discussion. But then everybody votes individually as well, so that there's a consensus without a lot of direct conflict. In a similar way, the decreasing options method, it's a great way to sift through a lot of ideas, especially when you don't know, well, what's really the priority. Well, you generate your ideas together, you get them up, posted. Sticky notes are great because you can move them around. And then you sort them. These are similar, so let's put these over here. These are high priority, so let's put these over here. And then you give everybody a certain amount of points or votes. And you say, okay, everybody vote on what you think is the most important. And you do that individually. And what you'll get is like a scatter shot where the group basically shows what topics are really important. And then you can push aside all the ones that didn't get high votes, and you can concentrate on the ones where everybody was like, yeah, this is what we need to target. That's decreasing options technique. The progressive problem solving method, we're just going to quickly go through every single one of these. Just kidding. This is a big method. It's actually a combination of John Dewey's 1910 reflective thinking process and steps from other methods. It's big, but it's meant to tackle overwhelming problems, big, huge things. Where do we even start? How are we going to do this? This progressive problem solving method gives you clear stages to work through so that you know exactly where you are and what you're doing, and you trust the process to get through. Finally, there's a subgroup committee. This is when you've got like a big plan to put together and a lot of people involved. So you take this big group and you break them down into smaller subgroups. Each subgroup goes through the process separately, and they come up with a solution or a plan. And then one person from each subgroup joins a committee, and that committee discusses all the solutions presented and comes up with a final answer. What's cool about it is that everybody in the room has had their voice heard, but you're doing it with small groups, which is much more efficient. That's another great technique. Of course, it's a digital age, and so I wanted to present some things that were leading apps that help teams collaborate, problem solve, like Trello, Microsoft Teams, Asana, Slack. There's probably 100 other ones out there with some special feature. But something to keep in mind is you want to stick with something so that you're not introducing new tech all the time to your team. And the name brand ones are going to have that programming behind it and the support behind it. So these are just some examples of those tools that are available. One of the realities of group dynamics is that the very things that make groups powerful can also disassemble the group if those attributes are not pointed at a shared goal. So things like personalities, perspectives, preferences, outside politics, like how the decision we make is going to impact other things. Power dynamics, is there a boss in here? Is there a gender or racial power difference? All these things can really separate a group if they're focused on the individuals. But if you bring them together into a shared goal, they become the power of the group. And that's what the benefits of group work is giving us. It's that enhanced creativity of bringing our perspectives and ideas together, shared inspiration, bouncing ideas off of each other, and just doing more together than we can do alone. So that is my very quick rundown on group problem solving and decision making. If anybody wants any extra information, I'd be glad to share the links and the resources that are part of this. Just let me know in the chat and I can pop some links up. And if anybody has an extra 3 minutes, this is extra, but if you want to stick around, I've got a little video on YouTube with the Big Bang Theory guys doing some group problem solving. So that's up next if you want to stick around for it. Otherwise, thank you very much. I greatly appreciate your support. You guys have a wonderful night.